What does 1 in 12 slope mean when it comes to wheelchair access? When building an entryway to a structure, it's required by the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, to have a slope no steeper than 1 to 12. 1 to 12 simply means that for every 1 foot of vertical rise, you're moving 12 feet forward. This is to ensure safe and accessible pathways for those using wheelchairs. This ratio is all about balance and effort. If the pathway is too steep, a wheelchair user could tip backwards, or the journey could be too strenuous. If the access ramp is built too shallow, then the journey becomes unnecessarily long and tiring. Pretty straightforward to understand. However, this access requirement ratio becomes complex when it comes to threshold ramps. For example, you may encounter a 1 1/4 inch high threshold ramp that's only 12 inches long. Now, how can that meet the 1 in 12 ADA requirement? The key element to understand is the ADA provides a 1/4 inch vertical rise and another 1/4 inch at a 45-degree angle at the front of any ramp or transition. Thus, the measuring of the slope is taken from the top of the leading edge of the transition or threshold ramp. A much easier way to understand if your threshold ramp is compliant is to measure the slope with a tool that tells the percentage of slope on a given threshold ramp. As long as it's not greater than 8.33%, then it's likely your ramp transition is compliant. Another way to calculate the slope of a threshold ramp is like this. If you measured the height of the threshold and then the length of the ramp itself, you may think that it doesn't meet the standards of 1 in 12. However, you must measure where the straight edge would eventually come in contact with the floor. This is the magic triangle of space that's allowed by that 1/4 inch ADA allowance for threshold ramps that we talked about earlier. Now when you measure the entire area, you'll see that your ramp is indeed compliant. The details of this provision are found in Section 303.2 and 303.3 of the Americans with Disabilities Guidelines.